My dear tribe, the purpose of this educational series is to wake you up and to get you to unplug. I'm sat here in a beautiful, very optimal environment, very low EMF. It's a coastal town in the Mediterranean. I'm going to come through to you live and raw, and you may hear some cockerels in the background, and that's fine, because what you're also going to hear is the raw truth. The things I'm sharing to you today may disturb you. They may not be fun to hear, and your worldview may change by the end of this educational series. Guess what? I don't happen to give a flying fuck. What I'm going to present to you here is data, facts, and statistics, all peer reviewed, evidence based, very robust scientific research. My job here and in the Breakthrough Engine is to lead with truth, is to tell you the blunt facts. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I am here to present you with what I've learned over 14 years of doing this work, over a long journey working with tremendous numbers of people traveling the world and stress testing these ideas to where we've got something absolutely incredible here that if you use it can be a tremendous advantage. But for you to do so, you first need to, as Stephen Covey would say, seek first to understand, then be understood. So we're going to get into this. Okay. Firstly, we're going to talk about incentives, healing, and why these ideas that I'm presenting to you might come as a bit left field, a bit unusual, a bit different from what you've heard before. Your best thinking's got you where you are. And if you've got performance issues, procrastination, anxiety, you're finding it difficult to get deep work, then you're stuck in your goals. You've really entered a position where you're at the limits of your paradigm, and maintaining the same paradigm is not going to get you further than you are. Okay? And if after this educational series, you haven't had light bulbs go off, you're not willing to look at things differently, then unfortunately I can't see you progressing. And that's unfortunate, but it's my job to just speak truth, just give you data, facts, and statistics. And yes, of course, I can guide you in execution and implementation of these sorts of things and tell you what I would do if I was you. And yeah, we've got a container for that and a program. But it is your choice what you do with this. Let's get into it then. So, the Rockefeller model of medicine. Basic principles of human nature and the scientific method are based on patterns, universal laws, things that are going to be enduring, that are going to be replicable each and every time. One of the things that is foundational and universal is universal human nature and how we function as people. We do have a fundamental nature, and there's certain things that we respond to. One of the concepts that we need to communicate here is of incentives. Incentives. What do I mean by incentives? I want to introduce the idea of utility. We as beings respond to incentives. Where we get utility, we go towards those things. Where we don't get utility, we back off, right? Basic principle of utilitarianism. Perfect. Thank you, brother. Basic principle of utilitarianism, put forward by Bentham and Mill, was that human nature tends to maximize utility and goes away from things that doesn't produce happiness. In other words, it's an idea of carrot and stick. So, where there is incentive, people will move. Where there is opportunity, people will go. Where there's good feelings and good flourishing and all the rest, we have certain fundamental needs that we're just going to pursue. That's part of being human. So what happens here with the Rockefeller model of medicine? What happens is incentives meet opportunity. Rockefeller and Carnegie fund what's called the Flexner Report. They see an incredible opportunity to monetize human health, human healing. Absolutely insane that this happened, but it's real. Go look into it. I've provided some information here that you can go and review. what happens is these like titans of industry, so to speak, decide that there's an opportunity here, and they fund the Flexner report. At that particular time in history, there'd been historically, if you look at the all of the human timeline, there's been societies all over, for a millennia that have perfected the crafts of healing, right? Look at the yogic sciences, and look at the breath work, and look at the vast hundreds of generations that have like focused on this stuff and have produced incredible systems of spirituality, of growth and development that have incredible utility. And what happens is there's there's an establishment of like a hegemonic paradigm, right? Through incentives. Thank you. Yeah, perfect. Just leave there if you can. Through incentives that leads to establishing a new norm, right? Like the idea of hegemony is really important here, right? And why we do what we do, why we think the way we think. Okay. You have to normalize ideas, right? And promote ideas, right? To kind of activate this tribal instinct in the human hive mind, right? To have monopoly over segments of reality. So what Rockefeller and Carnegie did was they said, okay, we're going to create a mass system of pharmaceutical chemistry, and we're going to normalize and create a paradigm where this is, right, the way to heal, to support the wellness of the human animal. Okay. But when you start to dig into the actual model that was created, it was about creating customers, about suppression of symptoms, about pharmaceutical chemistry, medicine, in other words, right? To supply pharmaceutical chemistry based solutions that don't produce recovery, but produce suppression of symptoms and create consumers. And with the Flexner report, what happens is we develop an institutional hegemony, an institutional, like, normalized model where the paradigm shifts towards this being how humans heal and be well. And the negative downstream effects of that are it is based on profiteering. It is a fundamentally a business model that's incentive is towards creating customers and maintaining that. Okay. And as you see how it manifests, right? How it manifests is all the evidence based, all the lenses through which we look at these problems are filtered through these dominant paradigms, right? And this is a behavior that you see across every facet of human existence because we just have a nature. We're tribal, okay? And we respond to hierarchy. And what you saw here in the Flexner report is like a reconstitution of how the hierarchy works. And a shift away from a North Star of producing results to producing customers, right? And thereafter, you see a lot of negative downstream effects from that. Okay, that is fact. That is fact. Up till that point in history, you had, thousands of years of very heart-centered based approaches, some more rigorous than others, where humans had perfected a multitude of different crafts and had a different set of tools and we're producing results. And you can look in different cultures and you can do some really deep research like I've done for 14 years and you will see like absolutely incredible things people were doing in the past. And what happens is it all gets disrupted by this report and the subsequent reorientation of the institutional infrastructure, right? And this is this, and there's some other historical events that happen. Like starts off like a massive, like progressive decline that is still we're still like things are getting worse essentially, because when you introduce perverse incentives, right? Ultimately, hey, listen, it doesn't profit you or I, but there's some people who do very well from it. The purpose of this is just to get you to think, just to get you to look at the incentives and to follow the money. The things that we promote in the breakthrough engine, guess what? It's fucking mostly free. Okay. Yes, there's implementation, execution. You do need a certain level of expertise. Fine. There's me for that, and you can access that. But for the most part, You need to understand the blunt facts, the data and statistics, and the historical timeline that has seen like a massive reorientation how we look at this aspect of reality. And that's what I presented to you here. And for you to get a full picture, I'd like you to watch this documentary from James Corbett, which is on YouTube. And I'd like to read this report. That's the first step you need to go through to start to unplug this. And by the end of this educational series, you will see things differently. And that's the path to freedom. The truth will set you free. It might not be fun. You might not enjoy it. I don't enjoy it. But that's part of being an adult. Yeah? So, go do those actions I just recommended there. And then we'll go to module 2.